today because I'm arresting you
Yeah.
on suspicion of the rape and murder
Yeah.
of Louisa Dunn, which happened in Bristol in June 1967.
Yeah.
The reason I'm arresting you
Yeah.
is because the police have investigative material that indicates you are responsible for that rape and murder of Mrs. Dunn,
Yeah.
which happened at Britannia Road in Eastern Bristol, June 1967.
Yeah.
You do not have to say anything. But
This is a 92-year-old man from Ipswich, UK. He listens quietly as the arrest warrant is read out to him in front of the cameras, on serious charges of rape and murder. This is no ordinary case. Nearly 60 years ago, 75-year-old Louisa Dunn was raped and murdered in her home in Bristol. The killer disappeared without a trace for decades, leaving the country feeling as if justice had been forgotten. And then, unexpectedly, a modern DNA test result broke the darkness of the past, dragging a 92-year-old man back into the criminal justice system. Why was he only unmasked after all these years? What happened over the course of nearly 6 decades? And how many secrets are still yet to be revealed? Join us as we delve into this extraordinary case, the oldest cold case ever solved in the UK. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on the most chilling and shocking true crime stories. Louisa Dunn, the victim of this case, was born in 1892, a woman of the older generation of England who lived through both world wars and witnessed many great changes in society. She was born and raised in Bristol, a thriving industrial city in the early 20th century. As a young woman, Louisa worked in tobacco factories, which were the main source of income for many working women at that time. In that environment, she not only earned a living but also came into contact with the trade union movement and local politics. Louisa married Teddy Parker, a trade union leader, social activist, and local councillor. The couple were considered influential figures in the Bristol labor movement. Together they were involved in political activities, especially during the labor victory in 1945, where Teddy voted despite being in a hospital bed. In old photographs, Louisa is always seen with her husband, standing a step behind, symbolizing the image of the silent wife, standing behind a strong and idealistic husband. After Teddy's early death, Louisa fell into a period of loneliness, broke up with her children, and became an alcoholic. She lived alone in a small house on Britannia Road, Easton, Bristol. Louisa's life at that time was said to be quite isolated, fragile, and full of hurt. Early one morning in mid-June, 1967, the mother of a neighbor boy who had been visiting and caring for Louisa felt uneasy when she did not appear as usual. She knocked on the door several times, but the house was completely silent. Unable to wait any longer, the woman decided to climb onto the back windowsill, where she could see through a small crack. What she saw made her blood run cold. Louisa Dunn lay motionless on the floor, right in the middle of the living room. Her body was thin and wrinkled as if she had been thrown to the ground. Her gray hair was loose, her face was purple. The neighbor quickly climbed in through the window, opened the front door, and called the neighbors to call the police. The authorities quickly arrived. The scene left even the most experienced investigators speechless. The victim had been strangled with a scarf and a sock, both still wrapped around her neck. There were numerous bruises on her body, especially on her shoulders, neck, and arms, signs of a violent struggle. Blood was coming from her ears, a common finding in cases of strangulation that have resulted in intracranial injury. Most importantly, the victim's underwear had been pulled down to her ankles, and there were clear signs of sexual assault. The furniture in the room had been ransacked, drawers had been opened, and some personal items were strewn on the floor. There was no sign of forced entry through the front door, but a rear window had been forced open. The case was immediately classified as a murder with elements of rape, and was referred to the Bristol Police Department's Major Crimes Unit. The first officers on the scene were unanimous. This was no ordinary robbery. This was a hate crime, a twisted and particularly brutal one. The murder of Louisa Dunn quickly spread through Bristol like a smoldering fire in the community. News of an elderly woman, living alone, being raped and murdered in her own home shocked, frightened, and outraged residents. The local press called it an unforgivable crime in the heart of a quiet residential area. Within 24 hours of the body being discovered, the city police set up a special investigation committee, headed by Chief Inspector C. Reg Hicks, one of the most senior investigators in the Bristol police force at the time. He once declared to the press that he would not stop until he found the perpetrator of this terrible crime. The investigation began on a scale unprecedented in the city's history at that time. More than 90 officers were mobilized to participate, working in 12-hour shifts, day and night. Doors were knocked on every door in the Easton area. Thousands of interviews were conducted. At the scene, the forensic team found a well-preserved palm print on the rear window frame, where the killer was believed to have entered the house. It was the only and most valuable clue. There were no obvious witnesses and especially no CCTV, a luxury in the 1960s. So the police launched an unprecedented fingerprint and palm print campaign. More than 19,000 men aged 14 to 60 living in the East Bristol area were asked to provide fingerprints. One by one, they were invited to the police station or met at their homes. The investigating officer used ink to roll each finger, each palm, carefully recording every line. At times, entire neighborhoods lined up outside the police station, patiently waiting their turn. Some resisted, but most cooperated. Everyone wanted the killer caught. But despite all the efforts, the result was, no prints matched the prints at the scene. Not one of the more than 19,000 people had palms that matched the one who had entered Louisa's house that fateful night. The case fell into a stalemate. The investigation dragged on for months, then gradually narrowed down. The file was closed. The case of Mrs. Louisa Dunn was officially classified as a cold case, an unsolved murder. After nearly 60 years after the brutal murder in Bristol, many people believed that this case would be buried forever by time, that justice would never come to the frail old woman who died alone in 1967. But in early 2024, a new cold case investigation team was established, consisting of veteran investigators and forensic experts trained to modern standards. They decided to reopen the case of Louisa Dunn. While reviewing the crime scene and old evidence, the forensic team discovered an item that had been overlooked: the blue dress Louisa wore on the night of her murder. Back then, the technology was not sophisticated enough to analyze biological material from the fabric. But with modern DNA equipment in 2024, they decided to try again. Experts cut a piece of fabric from a sensitive area of the dress, using a special solvent cleaning process to extract the remaining biological material. Initially, the phosphatase test gave inconclusive results, but when they analyzed it further using sperm cell isolation and DNA cloning techniques, they obtained a complete genetic profile. A second after the DNA profile was entered into the UK National DNA Database, the system immediately displayed a 100% match. The man's name was Ryland Headley, a Jamaican man born in 1932 and currently living in the city of Ipswich, in the east of England. But what shocked the investigation team even more was that he was 92 years old. One question that investigators asked: why was such an old man's DNA in a criminal database? When Ryland Headley's name appeared in the National DNA Database, investigators quickly ran a search of his criminal record. The results revealed a shocking truth. In 1977, just 10 years after Louisa Dunn's death, Headley had been arrested and charged with 2 extremely brutal rapes of elderly victims living alone in Ipswich, a quiet city in the east of England. The first victim was an 84-year-old woman who lived in a ground-floor flat. Headley had broken into her home in the middle of the night, used force to overpower her, bound her hands and raped her in her bed. The second victim, a 79-year-old, was attacked in a similar manner just weeks later. Both women were single, and both described their attacker as quiet, cruel, and almost silent. The incident shocked Ipswich, prompting a major police manhunt. Headley was eventually arrested after his fingerprints were matched to the crime scene. He admitted to the crime in court and was initially sentenced to life in prison. However, Headley soon appealed. His defense argued that he had no previous convictions, that the rape was an act of marital stress and emotional turmoil, and that he was no longer a high risk of reoffending because he had chosen an older victim. Based on these arguments, the court agreed to reduce the sentence to 7 years in prison, a decision that was later judged to be a serious error by the justice system. What kept the Louisa Dunn case going for decades was the one remaining loophole. During the 1977 trial, Ryland Headley failed to provide a palm print. He claimed that he had arthritis in his wrists, which made it medically impossible to take a palm print. As a result, the precious palm print from the 1967 crime scene, which had been there for decades, could not be compared with his data. A DNA test confirmed that it was a perfect match for Ryland Headley. Within hours, an urgent arrest warrant was issued. A special investigation team from the Avon and Somerset police, working with local police in Ipswich, was sent to his residence. On a November morning in 2024, the investigation team knocked on the door. Ryland Headley, now 92 years old, hunched over, with white hair. The commanding officer solemnly announced,
Could you open the door, please? Thank you very much.
Who are you?
I'll explain. I'm from the police.
What?
I'm from the police.
What?
Good morning. Hello. I'm from the police.
What's here?
I'm from the police. My name's Naomi Main. I'm a detective. May I come in, please?
No. You can't come now. I'm just coming now. Where you want to come in for?
I'll explain because it's a bit sensitive. So we'd like to come in and speak to you properly, please.
Eh?
May I come in to speak to you properly?
I mean, look, I've just got up. I'm an old man.
I'm sorry. It's quite early.
I'm very sick. Not really at all.
You're not well?
No.
Okay.
What do you want? What is it about?
I'll tell you inside because we don't want other people hearing. So can we just come in and get you seated and have a chat?
Yeah,
Thank you very much. It's Mr. Headley, yes?
Eh?
Mr. Headley?
Yeah.
Ryland Headley, lovely. Thank you very much. This is my colleague Joe. We've just got a camera recording as well, just so you're aware.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm here today because I'm arresting you
Yeah.
on suspicion of the rape and murder
Yeah.
of Louisa Dunn, which happened in Bristol in June 1967.
Yeah.
The reason I'm arresting you
Yeah.
is because the police have investigative material that indicates you are responsible for that rape and murder of Mrs. Dunn,
Yeah.
which happened at Britannia Road in Eastern Bristol, June 1967.
Yeah.
You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you don't mention when questioned something that you later rely on in court.
Yeah.
Anything you do say may be given in evidence.
Yeah.
I need to do this.
Wait, where all this come from? Where you get all this from?
We have investigative information, so we have material that suggests that it's yourself, and we need to basically arrest you and take you to the custody so that we can conduct an interview with you, so we can hear, your event and interview about it.
Into what?
Interview you about it and get.
He was handcuffed and escorted out of the house without any emotional reaction. Neighbors were shocked when they saw this scene. In their eyes, Ryland was just a quiet old man, living a private life and rarely communicating with anyone. In the interrogation room, Headley sat across from two veteran investigators. In front of him were the case file, DNA evidence, and photos of the scene from 1967. Everything was ready for him to face the truth.
Do this? Have you ever been there for any other reason that would explain why your handprint might be there?
Come in.
Okay, so we're going to talk about what happened next, okay? So once you've gone in, or somebody has gone in, we believe it to be you, through that window, Louisa has been attacked. Can you tell me about that?
No, come in.
Where did you find her in the house?
No, come in.
Or did she find you, maybe?
No, come in.
Okay. How did she react to seeing you in the house?
No, come in.
Did you have the impression you were welcome?
No, come in.
Was there any conversation between you and Louisa?
No, come in.
Was she expecting you?
No, come in.
There were a number of people nearby who heard a scream in the early hours of the morning.
No, come in.
Can you tell me how Louisa died?
No comment.
Did she die as a result of your actions?
No comment.
And if so, what were your actions?
No comment.
Was it an accident?
No comment.
On the 16th of June 2025, at Bristol Crown Court, Ryland Headley was formally tried for rape and murder in connection with the death of Louisa Dunn in 1967. The case, which had been stalled for decades, now has one of the longest time gaps between crime and prosecution in British judicial history. Prosecutor Anna Vigars KC presented a series of compelling evidence to the 12-person jury. The most important of these was that DNA from the victim's dress matched Headley's DNA perfectly, with almost no margin for error. Palm prints from the victim's back window were also a perfect match to his own, taken in 2024. In addition, old address records showed that Headley lived just 1.5 miles from the crime scene at the time of the murder well outside the police operation that collected more than 19,000 fingerprints in 1967. One special circumstance approved by the court was that the prosecution was allowed to introduce evidence of 2 rapes that Headley had committed in 1977 to clarify the pattern of his behavior. In both cases, the victims were elderly women who lived alone and were broken into at night, strangled, restrained, and raped, in a manner identical to the attack and the death of Louisa Dunn. Headley did not make any statements during the trial. His defense argued that his age and cognitive impairment made it difficult for him to recall past events. However, the jury was not convinced. After nearly 10 hours of deliberation, they returned a verdict. Ryland Headley was guilty of murder by a vote of 10-2 and guilty of rape by a unanimous vote. On the 1st of July, 2025, exactly 2 days after the 58th anniversary of Louisa Dunn's murder, Judge Derek Sweeting sentenced Headley to life in prison with a minimum of 20 years.
I've taken the rape into account as a feature which makes the murder all the more serious, and I do not therefore impose any separate penalty. For the murder of Louisa Jane Dunn, the sentence must be one of life imprisonment. Having considered all the aggravating features of this case, including the impact on Louisa Dunn's family, who have waited decades for justice, the minimum term I impose is 20 years. You will be entitled to credit for the time spent on remand, which can be calculated separately. It is normally necessary to explain the effect of such a minimum term in detail, but given your age, and for all practical purposes, I can do so in very short terms. You will never be released. You will die.
The trial ended in an emotional silence. Mary Dainton, the victim's only surviving granddaughter, spoke on behalf of the family. A part of my mother's soul will forever carry this pain. But today, justice has finally been served. With the defendant's silence for nearly 60 years, justice did not come soon enough, but it did come, powerfully and irrefutably. What do you think about the legal loophole in this case? Was his failure to provide palm prints for decades because of arthritis a terrifying loophole in the justice system? Share your views in the comments below, and if you find cases like this worth pondering, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next stories about justice, investigation, and unsolved mysteries.